Contrary to popular wishes, we haven't all been lynched for our Windows versus Linux boot speed, although if you do want to lynch someone, it was Graham what made the video. This is episode 21 of the TuxRadar podcast. I'm Paul Hudson.
I'm Mike Saunders.
I'm Graham Morrison.
And I'm Paul Hudson as well.
And in this podcast, we're discussing Firefox turning 5 years old while Microsoft borrows free software code. Our hot topic is, what would our perfect Linux distro look like? And the open ballot, should everyone be encouraged to contribute to free software projects? Don't forget, we publish news, features and more on TuxRadar.com, so bookmark it. And of course, last time, our last podcast, we had a competition, didn't we?
We did.
We did. We didn't quite specify a prize, but the competition was simple. Tell us what a better name for the next Ubuntu would be. Ubuntu 10.10. Yeah, and we had lots of responses, some of which were quite dirty, I thought, but we now get to choose one. Mike, what's your most popular Ubuntu 10.10 name?
I think the suggestion on the comments of deep breath, maybe Pulse Audio might actually work this time, is the best.
That's pretty kind of... yeah, definitely two M's in that one. Andrew?
I still think Manky Monkey is best.
That was our choice, yes.
I'm going to say it one more time, Manky Monkey. But a close second, I thought, was Mammoth.
Mammoth, fair enough. Graham?
Well, mine was quite a serious one, actually, because I don't think there are enough women in open source.
Really?
And Linux in general. So I was going to go for Melinda Messenger, because I think she's an icon of our times.
Who is Melinda Messenger?
Well, I looked on Wikipedia, and she's a mother. She's a working mum.
Do you think she embodies free software?
I think she embodies something, yeah. And anyway, Melinda Messenger for me.
And my favourite, fortunately, is Mammoth. Otherwise, we have to duke it out to the death to decide who wins the awesome prize. So whoever submitted Mammoth, we can't prove it was you, but write in. email me, paul.hudson@futurenet.com. Email me, and I will send you out a big stack of free software books and some exclusive Linux format magnets.
Cool.
Which are very nice.
They're very nice. Nice.
These are facts. They are important. This is the news. Firefox is now 5 years old.
Happy birthday!
Yay!
It feels like
There's
it.
an awesome cake here just for you Firefox developers. Isn't it really beautiful?
It's
it's going to go stale.
Oh, you'd better eat it quickly. Yes, because it was Firebird and something before that, wasn't it? Phoenix, Firebird, Firefox.
Yes.
And
Iceweasel.
Well,
still is Iceweasel.
That's the Debian
yes.
version.
Well, it was 1.0 5 years ago, wasn't it?
So it was 1.0.
It was 0.93 and stuff before that, wasn't it? Presumably?
When did everybody start using Firefox? Then I started using it about 0.9.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, I certainly started using it early on because it was so much better than the crusty old Mozilla.
Yeah.
Which was awful.
Maybe we should all go back to Firefox 0.9.
It actually reminds me a lot of using Google Chrome these days. You know, at the time it was great just to have a browser that was fast and wasn't encumbered by my email and my Usenet and my everything else.
Well, it's strange, isn't it? Because Firefox started out as the lightweight, slimmed-down, streamlined equivalent of Mozilla SeaMonkey, and now people are complaining it's too big and bloated. You know, the code is so complex for extensions, and people are saying, "Oh, look, Epiphany, Midori, quick, lightweight." WebKit browsers. And I know some people have accused us of hating on Gecko in recent podcasts. I still like Gecko, but...
I don't.
Will Firefox be here in another 5 years' time?
That's a good question. No.
Or will it...
no, it won't be. It'll be gone.
Or will it be Firefox running WebKit? There's a question.
Well, who cares, really?
The problem is, once Firefox drops Gecko, it drops one of its few unique features.
Yes.
And it might as well be any other browser out there. And what I found surprising actually is that Firefox has a gigantic market share when you think about it.
It does, it's huge, yeah.
It's 25% on average around the world. In some places, mostly in Europe, it's past 35% market share, which makes Linux look rather stupid.
Yes.
That's Mammoth as free software projects go. It's huge.
Yeah.
So it proves that we have got some grassroots success.
That's why I think it will still be here in 5 years' time. I mean, you look at web and analytic software, And you see people still using Netscape 4 inexplicably. There always turns up a tiny
or an
percentage
Amiga,
of this.
yeah.
Or an Amiga or
It'll be
something.
in there in some hit logs, but I think it'll really be gone. Either because it's been axed from inside Mozilla and replaced with something even smaller and lighter, whatever, or Chrome or something else like Chrome will have killed it off.
Well, yeah, the Mozilla Foundation will be still sitting on a big pile of money they've
correct.
made from Google, and they'll be, still in charge of Firefox, but no one will be using it.
Well, the Firefox project should still be going.
Probably.
They've done a superb job in opening up the possibility of choice to people who run Windows.
And Slackware, yeah.
And Slackware?
Slackware will still have it, yeah. Debian will still have it, yeah.
I don't care. Slackware doesn't matter.
Ooh.
It's done
Controversial.
great things. But I think the reason why
My mum runs Firefox.
Yeah.
Not Slackware,
And
though.
she says it's better than Internet Explorer.
It is better than Internet Explorer. There's no doubt about
But
that.
that's the biggest thing. That's the big deal.
That's true, but maybe the rest of the world are very, very happy with the huge leap forward that is Firefox,
Yeah.
and don't care that Chrome's 5% faster in some places or whatever.
That's true.
You got to admit, it was killer for its time.
Absolutely.
Oh, and it has made a big difference,
I was actually excited about Firefox too. It got me excited.
Well, didn't we do a big cover feature?
Yeah, we did.
in
Yeah,
the
great
format?
great cover feature.
Lovely colour. Cover.
Oh yeah, we had that special
Silvery.
Silver, yeah.
That
Silver, yeah.
fifth colour effect. That was cool.
Yeah, that was great. But I think the reason I think it's going to die is because they either have to completely bin large chunks of it, a la what they did when they switched to Firefox in the first place, just bin all the UI code, bin most of the layout code, and start from scratch. They either do that or they get rolled over by Chrome. So Firefox 4 has to be a huge, huge change.
Is there a version of the UK terror threat level indicator available for Chrome?
I don't think so.
If you Google UK terror threat level, you get it's right there in the main window.
Even better.
I'm sure there's a phone number you can call as well, they'll read it out.
SMS alerts.
Yeah, every day it sends you a text.
Orange.
The second big news story of the last couple of weeks is Microsoft's possible GPL violation. Redmond's put up this program called the USB DVD download tool, and within Windows website poked around inside the binary with Reflector and found apparently code that had been lifted from a GPL project called ImageMaster, and Microsoft has taken down their program at the moment pending a review. What do we think of that? Is it expected?
I think it's probably an innocent mistake, and it must be very, very difficult with a code base the size of Microsoft's to keep on top of where everything comes from. And I think it's to be expected with anything like this. But I mean, what I think it does show is that the heavy-handed tactics of companies like Microsoft has used in the past, with such as FAT in various hardware devices. TomTom. It shows that everybody is susceptible to making mistakes, and I think for that it's interesting.
This is why MS does have this rule saying don't even look at GPL code.
Yeah.
It's not even don't copy it, it's just don't even look at it because it might just go the wrong way.
You might dream about it.
You never know. But I think part of the problem here is that this is a fairly small component of Windows 7, so it might have been developed externally where there's not quite such strict rules in place.
This is what somebody said. I don't really like quoting random Slashdot comments, but somebody said that they had heard from a coder inside Microsoft saying Microsoft bought a lot of this code from somebody else and put it in their program.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds you of these toxic assets being sold around within banks, and nobody knows where they started, and they get packaged up. If code's gone through 5 companies, bundling and selling it off, then perhaps at one point it originated in a free software project, and it's just gone through this series.
I think it's awesome that ImageMaster is hosted on Codeplex.
Yeah.
Microsoft's open source
Yeah.
site. At least they nick from the friends.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's got the server in their office, and they just thought, they saw it on their shared drive and thought, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Well, it's interesting because even if it's not stolen, I think it's going to force Microsoft to evaluate a large amount of code, millions of lines probably, just in case. Who else have we bought from recently? What else have this company supplied us with? Check it over.
Yes. I don't know who could really pressure them into doing that.
No, but it'd be internal because they don't want to get stung, do they?
No, but I mean, was this a C# program then?
Yeah.
They've done. So you know a lot about that. How exactly did they determine by looking in the binary that this was from a free software?
That's reflected, you see, because .NET doesn't go down to simple assembly language.
Yeah.
You can pull out of it large amounts of data. So they reconstructed the method really accurately. This is basically what it looks like originally, and this is what our one looks like, and it's pretty much identical.
But could that have happened because there are only certain ways to accomplish certain algorithms?
Right, so one of the examples he gave was to read bytes from a file,
right.
which is such a simple thing to want to do. It's only about 40 lines of code he cited.
Mm-hmm.
They were, to be fair, almost identical. It was eerily identical, but that's the nature. When you're looking at a particular file format, I think it was UDF, or the example was, reading the bytes from it, only so many ways you can skin that particular cat.
Yeah.
So, up in the air. But it's still going to force MS to take a good, long, hard look at the source code management again. And that's always fun.
And lots of other people, I imagine, are going to be inspired to look at lots of other MS
Maybe,
executables.
maybe.
Yeah, it might kick off a whole new project.
Explorers, Firefox.exe renamed.
No, that IE would be good then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, maybe that's a good grassroots project. If we get everyone to spend a couple of days just skanking through MS binaries.
Yeah.
I know it's against the law in many countries, including this one, so I'm not advocating it. But in other countries, skank through MS stuff and try and find where it's ripped off from and do them for it. That'd be quite humorous.
And the other news story of interest is the rise and demise of Fat Elf.
That's very festive.
What is Fat Elf?
Fat Elf is a binary executable format that combines code for several different CPUs into one executable. So, like when Apple moved from PowerPC to Intel, they used FAT binaries. So a single binary could run on two different types of processor because it held together. It was basically sewed together two different sets of instructions.
So would that help projects like Debian, for instance, that really tries to make its software run on as many architectures as possible?
Well, it would do if they wanted to put them all onto some mega gigantic
that would be
disk,
horrible.
but it would make them really big. I think the idea is if you're making a program and you want to distribute it for PowerPC and Intel in one, then you can just put out one binary. It isn't really that necessary in the free software world, and that's arguably one of the reasons it's died. But the creator, or at least the lead maintainer, Ryan C. Gordon, complained thusly. He said, "Kernel maintainers are frowning on Fat Elf patches. Some got the idea and disagreed. Some didn't seem to hear what I was saying. Some showed up in the discussion just to be rude."
That's not like them at all.
No, that's not kernel developers, is it?
People being rude on the internet.
Yeah.
But this bit of background, Ryan Gordon's the guy who ported Google Earth to Linux, Unreal Tournament to Linux, Postal 2 to Linux, America's Army to Linux. He's one of the key guys in SDL. He does a huge amount of work for the free software community. He's a really nice guy. He was really nice all the way through the discussion, very courteous and polite and reasonable all the way through. So I think it's quite disappointing to come out of this with this result.
So what has actually happened? What's the end result?
No.
He's just walked away from it, I think.
Right.
Effectively.
They aren't going to take the patches. He wrote all the patches for the kernel and various hackeries to make it work in glibc, I think, as well, so that it recognises binaries properly. He's done all the hard work. It's a matter of getting them to accept the patches now, and they won't do it.
But do we need it? Can you think of a real practical use for fat binaries in
All right, so
Linux?
the main opponent of the kernel list was Alan Cox, who said that this is obsoleted by package managers.
Yeah.
You do apt-get install foo, and it knows what architecture you're on and installs it. That is absolutely true. Within package management environments, it's completely fine, not needed. But if I release some software that's not in a package manager, I have to say, okay, if you are on this distro with this glibc, here's one you want. You're on this distro with this architecture with this da-da-da. I have to release 4 or 5 versions sometimes, and it's really quite hideous. Things like VirtualBox. Now, Debian has got a repository, which is quite nice. Debian Ubuntu as well.
But that's more about just the discrepancies between distros, isn't it?
It is, but architectures as well. There's many different reasons to have those problems.
Yeah, but you've got the problem of dealing with 8 different distros, 8 mainstream
That's always
distros,
going to remain, sadly.
and then so really the idea that you might have to make binaries for 2 different platforms is kind of small, isn't it? Because there's how many platforms are you going to realistically target? PowerPC, Intel.
Yeah, but also it works across systems too. You can have FreeBSD and Linux.
Oh, I see. In the same ELF.
Perfectly allowed, yeah. Perfectly allowed.
Right,
Or if you look at the new iPhone stuff, iPhones have universal binaries that work on 3GS, which is a different CPU,
Yeah.
or 3G. And you can stick a universal binary on there, and it'll choose the right one automatically. So we're looking at Linux devices like phones, like Android phones. You don't want to have to think about what it's compiled for. Fair enough, Android has Java for many of its apps, that's safe enough, but everyone else, what are you going to do?
That's true. So yeah, more perhaps specialised cases then.
I know people are worried about space, and fair enough, in the embedded world, space isn't great, but it only loads into RAM the one it needs. It doesn't load the whole thing into RAM.
Yeah.
And disk space, even on embedded devices, isn't really short nowadays.
Yeah, you've always got gigabytes of.
I think it's a great idea. It would have solved that problem. What do I get from a website? Here's 10 options. Which one do you want? I don't really know. Guess.
Yeah.
So you read all the discussion then? You said that.
I read all the discussion. It was quite long and very flaming in places.
But you said that Ryan was the.
Ryan was a nice guy. He was really friendly all the way through, and it ended up really sad. His last thing he said on his stop plan on his website was, "I'll definitely think twice before trying to contribute again, especially if it addresses the status quo. Open source is a lot more gratifying when you are working your own project. Contributing to other projects, not so much fun, it turns out." And that's sad, because he's such a great coder, he's done so much work, and he doesn't want to contribute elsewhere now, because they've put him off.
We've seen similar stuff with Colivas and his...
Correct.
Are the kernel guys becoming too snobbish, elitish, too close? Do they...
It sounds like it, doesn't
harder
it?
and harder to get
would put
involved?
me off.
Yeah.
I know, but the thing is, they all have their opinions, fair enough, that's perfectly allowed, and they're all allowed to express their opinions, that's perfectly allowed. But the problem is, because it's the nature of open source mailing lists, it gets very, very aggressive. And they don't mean to be aggressive. They don't mean it. It just comes across that way.
But as a project is more established and becomes bigger, like the Linux kernel are more important, then people on the mailing list are going to tend to think, the people who've been on there a long time, they're going to reject things, reject new ideas, new code easier. Because
status quo.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Maybe that's going to be a problem.
We'll find out.
We will find out.
On to our hot topic. It's Distro Time. Fedora 12 is around the corner. OpenSUSE 11.2 is out now.
Tomorrow, I think.
Tomorrow.
And of course, Ubuntu 9.10's here. Mandriva 2010 is out. All these new versions, it's incredible. It's distro heaven right now. But we want more. Gentlemen, what would your perfect Linux distro look like?
Slackware 1. I'm sure that was ace. I'm sure at the time that was just amazing.
In your memory, your golden history.
Yeah. But it was a beautiful work of art. I've always argued for years now and bored everybody to death that the Linux file system needs to be massively overhauled. Gobo Linux is a distribution that's done this and has taken cues from RISC OS and Mac OS 10 in keeping applications entirely together in one folder. So you can move them around wherever you want in the file system. They're self-contained, and they're not, like their programs are at the moment, just exploded all over your hard drive with bits in user bin and bits in var lib and seemingly random locations. So I think my perfect distribution would be one where I just pick up a program, put it anywhere in /applications on my desktop, wherever it is.
It's a brilliant idea, yeah.
Surely Mac OS 10 could do that quite easily, scatter things around, if it had a package management system that kept track of all those files, like Linux does.
Oh, I don't really like package management, ultimately. I think that's another layer of complication on top. I just want a program. When I play a music CD or music DVD, I don't have to get it in a package manager and scatter it all over my flat. I just put it in the drive. Just like, I want to give you a program, Paul, and say, here's a program. Not, add this repository and check out these libraries. I think it's good. There are good sides to it in that you can do, full system updates. But there are ways of getting around that, and I think package management is another layer of complication. So my perfect distro would be one where apps are like autonomous, standalone little blobs.
Yeah, just in case people haven't tried this before, when you install apps on a Mac, it's actually quite clever. It brings up a window. On the left-hand side is a huge icon of your app, like the big Firefox logo. On the right is a large folder marked Applications, and in between is a big arrow pointing at the Applications thing. You just kind of click on the Firefox thing, move it an inch to the right and drop an Applications, enter your password, and it's installed.
Well, you don't have to enter your password a lot of the time, unless it's doing anything to the system.
And you can double-click it from there if you want to.
If you really want to.
Well, that's the thing. Dropping into Applications is a suggestion, but it doesn't rely. It's not necessary for it to be in any particular place. You can put it in your desktop. You can put it in a folder called Awesome Stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah.
The program lives on its own.
Is part of the problem with that, though, why gedit from OS 10 is 30 megs? Which is obscene, quite frankly.
Well, that's a little unfair. When you're installing stuff on Linux, you don't have to manually go around and scatter the config files yourself, do you? The package manager does that all for you.
You have to click on Synaptic, then select your thing and say mark for installation, mark, apply, OK. It's quite painful and synaptic.
Alan Cox, what are you doing here?
The problem is, if package managers actually included all the latest software as soon as it was released, then we'd all be very happy with it. But it's never the case. And in the end, you end up getting packages from everywhere. It's compiling some, installing some from unsupported repositories. And yeah, it's a mess, I agree. And the only solution is to reformat your hard drive every 6 months.
Just like you do. I think there's an open ballot here. Should we ditch package managers?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's a really important point.
I don't think it'll happen though. I've championed auto package
It's just
for many
too
years.
fundamental a change,
Yeah.
a difference.
Oh well, never mind, guys.
Andrew, what would one of your features be from your major distro?
I like the spinny cube.
Compiz.
Yep. And I like what else?
That's it, isn't it? Really, spinning cube. I like the shiny.
I like the shiny. I don't care.
Wobbly windows.
Oh, I don't like. They make me feel a bit funny.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I'm the only one in the world who likes wobbly windows. Everyone sees my screen and goes, ugh.
I get seasick watching your screen.
But that's why I've built up that big pile of books between your desk and mine, so I don't accidentally look at your screen.
I thought that was my halitosis.
Do you turn on all these effects when anybody comes near your computer? Actually, when we walk away, you just switch to TWM.
I've got a KVM, I just switched back to Mac.
Anything else, Andrew? What you'd like to see? You're quite easily satisfied.
Oh, I tell you what I would like. After praising the flawless upgrade system of Ubuntu last fortnight, I would like to say, Ubuntu, could you please start recognising my disk drive again?
What, CD,
DVD
drive?
The CD drive, yeah. I'd like a distro that's shiny and that recognises my CD drive.
Great.
That's pretty easy to do, I think. Yeah,
Sweet.
I might make a distro specifically for that, a remix of Ubuntu.
Just for me.
CD Ubuntu.
Call it Andrewix.
Andrew.
Graham.
Okay, well, mine is just a single desktop environment. There is no other desktop environment. In fact, people who use it don't even need to know what a desktop environment is. It's just the Linux desktop.
And that would be XFCE, would it?
Well, I don't really care what it is, as long as it's just one. Just
How
one
on earth
thing.
could we ever get the community to decide?
I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Executions.
But
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
at the moment, it's dividing quicker than swine flu cells, It's just such a waste of time and effort. And I think it goes along with your file system idea. It's just fragmenting the community when I've come to this conclusion over several years, and it's just a waste of time.
Sorry, Graham, isn't swine flu a virus?
Yes.
It doesn't have cells then.
Yeah, Graham.
Sorry.
Sorry, everybody out there getting confused by that. Do not take medical advice from the TuxRadar podcast.
So that's it. That's my that's what I would really wish. And I'm not talking about just a Kubuntu or an Ubuntu. I'm talking about it doesn't matter. I really don't care.
So you'd switch to GNOME permanently?
I would.
All right, there you go. Awesome. I've got 4 things, but they're pretty small. One is rolling updates, because that seems to be solve the package management problem entirely. Just keep on using packages for everything, but they update when software comes out. I'd like to see codecs one click away, because I think the current shenanigans of making it really easy to get stuff if you monkey with a file and fiddle around. You can get it if you fiddle around, so why can't you just get it without fiddling around?
It's not so bad in Ubuntu now, that is it? You try and play an MP3 in Totem, and
It's getting better.
Whoa,
It should be
you want this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ubuntu's very good.
Just do it all at once.
Right.
I don't want to take my laptop away and realise I haven't got the DVD codec or whatever installed. So I wanted to say, do you want to do this? Yes, or after install.
Do you basically want to make your
Well,
distro
it's like,
functional?
remember ages ago when they first introduced Windows activation stuff for XP, it was like after installation it would say, do you want to activate Windows? Now. Go ahead. It didn't leave it hanging for 2 weeks. It said, do it now.
Yeah.
Get out of the way. Do the same thing for Linux. Get out of the way. I'd like to see Grub destroyed and replaced with something beautiful. I don't know how Boot Camp on Mac does it, but it looks great. It looks really nice. You get the whole picture of hard drive with a Windows logo or a Mac logo. Which one do you want?
The Chameleon bootloader that's used by Hackintosh people is very nice.
There you go.
And it recognises Linux partitions automatically. So
It's clearly possible.
if you've got a Linux drive, you see a little penguin.
Oh, that's how it should be. I'm sick of seeing, do you want kernel 2.2.31 or 30 or 29? It's all the ones I've installed previously, all listed for some obscure reason, each one with a failsafe option. That just fills my screen with kernel options.
I agree with you, but that's more a Grub setup thing, isn't it? Grub can display,
I
nice
know.
images,
Yeah, it
Visa
is.
mode
Yeah,
images.
Should be as standard. I want to see beautiful boot.
We don't need to ditch Grub for that. That's what I mean. Grub can easily.
Well, you say that, but it's been years now. What's going on?
Yeah, but that's the same reason we've got rubbish audio servers and
That's because it's
wrong
been
with
replaced. I'll get there. And finally, I'd like to see Firefox into 000 dropped automatically because for some reason I can't seem to get the willpower up to do it myself.
So Abbey Word, Gnumeric, and Midori or Epiphany,
and someone like
It's
Chrome.
all about Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. And
I think we can make that distro for Paul, actually, can't we?
Yeah.
I might
if you have
remaster.
CD drives as well.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that'll satisfy everybody. It just runs GNOME, so Graham will like that. It includes Abbey Word for Paul, and it recognises Andrew's CD drive.
TuxRadar.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Does.
I'll use it. Well, none of that would satisfy
Have
me.
you been to space?
How big is space?
How big is it? It's very, 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 very big.
Enough hot topic time, gentlemen. Sorry, but a major announcement. For the next 2 weeks, we are going to restrict ourselves somewhat suicidally to using Microsoft Bing.
Why? The pain of it all.
Can we live without Google?
Oh, the humanity.
That's the question. Can we live without Google? If you're able to, please ditch your Gmail accounts temporarily. If you're able to. I know that's particularly painful. But at the very least, you must not use Google search for the next 2 weeks.
It's like it's suicide again for me, then.
Again.
And we'll report back on our experiences of life without Google in 2 weeks'
So
time.
let's just be clear about this. We're going to use Microsoft services, so Bing Maps instead of Google Maps. Bing, as far as possible, we're going to Microsoftify our internet lives.
Yes. Can we live without Google's everything?
Hotmail.
Can I Bing Google results? Does that work?
Is there a...
And you might find you like it. Probably not, but you might.
Yeah, might.
What happens if we do? We have to quit Linux format and TuxRadar.
Is this discussion in 2 weeks' time? Hold yourselves back. And with such Microsoft loving, we come to the halfway point of our podcast. Still to come, the discovery of the week or fortnight, and our open ballot. Should we be encouraging everyone to contribute to free software?
Right, the sun is over the yardarm on the good ship Discovery, which means it's time to share what we've all been finding these last 2 weeks. Graham, you were particularly effusive just 5 minutes ago, talking about your great your great explorations in the world of software. What have you found?
My discovery might be yet another one that everybody knows, but I discovered it just last night, and it's really, really handy.
If you right click, yeah.
It's revision control in Google Documents.
Oh,
Every change that you save is kept in a revision history. If you go to the File menu in Google Docs and click on the See Revision History for the document you're working on, you can see all the changes that you've made. And in the case of word processing documents, you can click 2 of them, and it'll highlight the differences. It'll show strike-throughs, bits that have been deleted, and highlight the bits that have been added. And with a spreadsheet, you can move backwards and forwards through the changes you've made, and the squares that have changed will be coloured.
Cool.
Really handy.
That's pretty cool. Is there a way to purge all the changes? If you
You
start
suspicious.
if you start writing a letter saying, "Dear horrible, hateful boss of mine who I want to die,"
Yeah, do you
and
remember?
then delete it. There
That's
was
what
something-
MS Word used to do.
MS
wasn't it?
Word
And
used
people
to
would
keep
send the whole
jumping
thing.
it, yeah. And,
I don't know. I've not looked into that, but yeah, the thought did occur to me that
The idea that Google might forever be able to keep your innermost thoughts before you clean them up and send them on to respective employer.
But I think it's a great feature.
I think it's an awesome feature, but I think it could do so much more.
It's not very user friendly.
No, I want to see them tie into my Google searches as well. Because I think I get the impression it'd be like, if I'm writing the welcome page to the magazine, it'd be like, welcome to issue bbcnews.co.uk. /.org. Every sort of 5 words I jump to a website and do something. It's pathetic. But I'd like to see how bad it is, to really confirm my innermost thoughts.
A timeline, a Google timeline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that'd be bad.
Is there one of these for Bing documents? Because
Is there even Bing documents?
you can't use this Discovery, great as it is, for the next 2 weeks.
I mean, I often make great big changes and cut out bits that I think aren't working anymore, and never quite having the confidence or knowing whether I could go back to it. So knowing that it's still all there is handy.
Well, I think that would lead me to dwell so much. Was that the right idea? I'd like to, chop out a paragraph and put it in the bin forever.
Yeah.
Hope the electrons terminate somehow.
So, with talk of electrons,
Yeah, on to some more stuff about electrons. My discovery of the week also involves electrons and the XFCE desktop environment. Because I've discovered gestures in the Thunar file manager, which you all use, presumably.
that's been there for a while, hasn't it?
It might have been, but
that's new for the latest version of XFCE, which I think we talked about in a podcast about a month and a half ago.
did we?
Are you calling Mike lame?
Well,
What you do, basically.
Of course not. No, I would never say that lame-o Mike is lame.
not in public, but well, anyway, I didn't know about these gestures because I only saw them on a blog somewhere on the internet. And but the idea is you're in Thunar, managing your files as you do. If you click and hold down the middle mouse button, you can move up to go up a level in the file system. You can pull the mouse down to reload the current folder, and you can sweep left and right to go through your browsing history. But it shows lovely little pretty icons as you're doing this to show that the gesture's been completed. I do most stuff from the command line anyway, but it's nice to know it's there.
That's a good feature.
Well, in advance of Paul's no doubt deluge of discoveries, let me just issue a public service announcement. When chopping boards, I've discovered chopping boards. They're really good. They're useful for when you're chopping things. For example, food and taking stones out of avocados.
What was the wrong way to do that then?
The wrong way. The way that I don't recommend is that you cut the avocado in half and then hold the half with the stone in your left hand, and then in a sort of Norman Bates motion, bring a big sharp knife down into the avocado stone and then go through it and into your finger, because that's horrible. I don't recommend you do it. I'm holding my finger up against the microphone now.
Can you hear the
I don't
pain?
know if you can see that at home, but the scar isn't actually that impressive at the moment. But
Let me see.
Add some blood to it.
No, that's lame. That's hip cut.
it's healed really well. It was down to the bone, honest.
What did the bone look like? Was it pretty cool?
It looked red.
Did it?
It looked red and wet.
Bones.
Yeah. It was horrific. So yeah, folks, use a chopping board, and don't injure yourself as I did.
Natural selection. It's coming for you.
I laugh in the face of natural selection. Paul, speaking of laughing in the face of natural selection,
I found only two. The first one is armenme.com. It's great.
Armen.me.
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 It's dig for Christian people. And we had some of our TuxRadar things on there. You say amen to some things you like,
Oh, I
and
see.
it ranks it up. There's some TuxRadar articles in there. It was great. People saying amen to our stuff.
What's the opposite of Amen then?
I'm not really sure.
Curse ye.
Die. Yeah. Obviously not bury. But the real one that I found very interesting was the discussion of the Notify stuff in Karmic, the new version of Ubuntu Karmic. Because it shows some things in the top right of the screen and some things about 2 inches down from the top right of the screen, designed so it can show more than one thing without overlapping and stuff. It's basically hard-coded to do that, and people are complaining because they want it to always be in the top right of the screen, otherwise it overlaps more of their page and they can't see what they're doing. And one guy posted to the list and said this: it all boils down to customization. I really feel the best way to make everyone happy is to have a reasonable configuration for Notify. Being able to choose a position easily and whether the position is fixed or dynamic would allow peace to any that are dissatisfied. And Mark Shuttleworth wrote back. He wrote back. And he said, a guiding principle is to reduce customization, not increase it. Firstly, we get much better collaboration and communication and much better testing if everyone is looking at the same experience. And this is what I discovered. This is very interesting, I think. We found this with Ubuntu itself. We reduced the full application install set to a single app for each major function. One browser, one mail client, one word processor. And that was controversial at the time. Most distributions were competing on how many apps they could install in one go. I had clean forgotten it was that bad, but he's absolutely right. I remember people saying, wow, look at the new OpenSUSE blah. It's got OpenOffice.org and KOffice and numeric. And you used to see like 5 text editors on the start menus of the programs.
But I think that's a phase a lot of people go through. When I first got Linux, I wanted to get the SUSE CD box set. Say, look at my menus. I'm so elite.
I just imagine, I've forgotten how bad it was.
so elite.
Yeah, naturally.
I forgot how bad it was. I'm really glad that, people say, oh, what is Ubuntu, just brown? That is a major innovation as far as I'm concerned. Let's get back to the root of what people actually want to do with their computers and bin all these silly apps, millions of them, and just focus on getting stuff done. So I'm really glad that he's put it down black and white so clearly and reminded us all of how the bad old days of how it was and why customizing the position where things appear on the screen is just a bit overkill, and it just makes things more and more complicated.
It's one of those, what colour should we paint the bike shed?
Yeah.
Discussions before it's even built. Yeah.
And with Paul's shock discovery that choice is bad, that brings us to the end of Discovery of the Week.
Time for our open ballot, which this fortnight asks: should we all be contributing to open source, and should we be doing something other than just mumbling on about something else?
Dan with this sort of thing.
Should we be forcing people to contribute to open source? Should we be trying to make them make more contributions to open source?
Should we have big donate buttons that flash animations?
Yeah. Should we be making more of it? We've had quite a few responses in the 18 hours since the question was posted on TuxRadar.com, and the overwhelming majority say yes, we should all be contributing to open source. At the time that I printed off the comments, there was 20 yeses to 2 noes. A lot of the yeses actually say that everybody can contribute. It's what makes open source such a great thing, and even if you don't have any technical skills, you can still fill in bug reports or write documentation. Brett D, for example, says, if nothing else, people should submit bug reports and try to follow up the best they can. Every little helps.
I didn't get some of those comments. People said you are helping free software just by using it. I don't understand that though. You have to be doing something active.
I guess
Sure,
you're not using.
evangelist, perhaps.
Yeah, you're not using a competitor's product. I suppose you're not paying for a Windows license.
Yeah, but
or if it's bumping up Firefox's usage numbers and making people make
true,
sites of Firefox.
true, yeah.
Anonymous Penguin, he must be one of our most active contributors.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a member of Anonymous, that internet
says that
destruction group.
yeah, passive contribution is great. We can tell our friends. MZ, he buys box sets to try and offset the balance of all the free stuff that he downloads, which actually makes the money go to people like Novell and Mandriva, rather than maybe the developers.
To big shareholders, you mean?
But let's try a no. Mind you, Gas, he said no. Not all can contribute. The person who writes the documentation for software and has no idea what he's writing about, no. Translating documentations or using online translation tools that have no idea what translating is, no thanks. That's not a very coherent no.
What I like is when people contribute to free software without even realizing they're doing it. It's things like kerneloops.org receives automatically kernel oops messages. When your kernel goes berserk, dies, it uploads itself to the server.
Hang on,
right.
so your kernel's crashed, but it's still got the
Correct,
network
yeah.
stack running,
Yeah,
and it
that
says,
still runs.
wow.
Yeah. Unless it's at such a low level that the stack hasn't been loaded yet.
Yeah.
Because it can't do it, but it does try and do it if it can. They announced recently at the kernel summit they fixed 8 out of the 10 top kernel oopses. So they just look at the numbers. Where are the biggest problems happening? Here. Fix them. Done.
Right.
So the majority of problems are being fixed the fast way. And that's awesome. That requires no work to do.
I liked Jonathan Pritchard's response, which was yes, but it's just an ideal. I think he's right. In an ideal world, yes, we'd all like to contribute, but in the real world, a lot of us don't have the time or the ability or all the rest of it. I ought to choose another no because the first one was so rubbish. Da Vinci, he says no. No, it's preferred if people do, but there are plenty of people who just want to be users and might not even know how to send bug reports, and I think that's fair enough. I mean, what do you guys think? What would you say, Mike?
I wouldn't want to be faced with pop-up messages and the like that Paul was mentioning.
Or being coerced.
Well, sometimes, OpenOffice.org, you download it, and I'm not sure if they do it now, but they used to put an interstitial page in there where they'd say, "Are you sure you really want to contribute?" I think it's a very fine line between getting on people's nerves. I think in a perfect world, we would all be contributing and doing much more, but this is free software. The idea is freedom, and people should have the freedom to say, I want this, I'm never going to contribute, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what freedom is about, ultimately.
Doesn't OS 10, I think, have, like, if any app crashes, you can report the thing to Apple? Maybe Windows does it as well.
Yes.
I think Linux does that on an application level, doesn't it? So if Firefox crashes, it can report the bug to Firefox.
To Firefox. Some GNOME apps you can
some GNOME apps
report
do it
to
as well.
GNOME,
But
yeah.
it's not system-wide, is it?
No, it isn't at the moment. Well, it's because there's not really a single central place at the moment to send crash reports to, is there?
Maybe there should be.
Maybe there should be.
So you're saying no?
I'm saying it, in a beautiful, quixotic world, we should, yeah. But otherwise, no. Don't never bug people into. It doesn't matter if people don't contribute so much. Let people be.
Okay, Andrew.
Well, I'm one of those people that doesn't contribute. So I say, yeah, leave me alone.
Other than giving your free time to record podcasts that entertain and educate the Linux community.
Yeah, in lunchtime. I'm really hungry. What's that all about?
So what would you say, Paul?
I contribute a great deal. I give away a lot of source code.
I know.
So does Mike. And I think, yeah, do it. Damn it.
Yeah.
And it's great because I get so many emails from folks with patches and stuff or suggestions, and I implement them. And that's it. Even the email suggestions is quite helpful as far as I'm concerned. Hey, could you do this, please? Yeah, done it. That's made my software better. It's your idea. You're happy. Everyone wins. So yeah, at least email people saying, hey, try this, try that. It was cool. Thanks.
Do you not get a lot of stupid suggestion emails, though?
I haven't had any of those yet, no.
I do occasionally get emails, Mike, why don't you write a TCP IP stack for macOS? Yeah, it might
Mike,
take
why
a few
don't you do
years.
it, man?
It might take a while.
Well, I think in the original wording of the question, that should we be trying to make people make more contributions to open source? I think yes, we should, but I don't think people should be forced to. So I think I'm going to have to say no, which is rather interesting because there's a majority no decision here at the table, and a massive majority for yes is out there in the internet.
But we should make it clear as well that we do, me and Graham and Paul, we do write code. I've got 5,000 lines of code out there on the internet, BSD license. I'd like contributing, but
I've let the side down.
I'd be scared of contributing to things like the Linux kernel these days.
Yeah. Well, no, because Greg Crowhammer gave a talk in the Japan Linux Symposium saying how to write and submit your first kernel patch. And it was awesome. He was just saying, hey, you can just submit fixes to the code style, and it helped us a huge amount because they haven't got time to do it. They're doing the big stuff. Fixing the code style makes it get stuff into the kernel faster.
cool. So can I make a patch then, replacing all the tabs for spaces, and it'll get in?
Do it.
See what that would be like on the mailing list.
And with such suicidal notions, we come to the end of our podcast for this installment. Don't forget, all the notes of the podcast are on the site.
Do you hear that, Paul? That's the sound of fail. That's the sound of you losing your life because you didn't wait for the one more thing.
I think that's the last sound I'll ever hear in my life, just before I die.
I'm actually going to make the Streets of Rage 2 death sound when I die.
You
are! We were talking about Fat Elf before, so I've got a question for you geezers. What does ELF stand for?
Format, is that the F?
Yeah. Good work, Graham.
Right.
Extended.
Any more?
Does the L stand for Linux?
No. It's got two names. There was an old name and a new name. So
Executable?
correct. So you got executable and format.
Loader.
Nope.
Library.
Nope.
Lemming.
What do executables do with
Launch?
other bits of code on system? Link. It is currently called the executable and linking format, but it was
We were right then.
It was the format formerly known as the extensible linking format, and of course it replaced A.out. And what did A.out mean?
It meant you hadn't passed -O to GCC.
Exactly. Yeah. But it actually did stand for something. This is only something I found out today as well. It's assembler output, of course.
Damn.
There we go.
There you go.
You look a bit dissatisfied with this one, Graham. You're normally one of my best, One More Thing supporters, but
I have real trouble sending the right facial expressions from my brain, and so deep inside I'm incredibly happy with that one, but my face just isn't showing it.
Smiling on the outside, crying on the inside, just like the Joker.
Oh, what a personal disaster.
And with that, we come to the real end of our podcast. Please tune in 2 weeks. Don't forget you can subscribe to Linux Format Magazine at tinyurl.com/podcastlxf. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.